Professor Black Truth is right. Bootlick is a job without a retirement plan. Coming to paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, Illuminati. The man who rules the world takes on the head of the global elite in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Pre-order your copy of John Haynes, Illuminati on Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Harvard University President Claudine Gay stepped down from her position as president of Harvard after a series of scandals.
We begin with a shakeup at the top of one of the nation's most prominent universities. The president of Harvard, Claudine Gay, resigned today following accusations of plagiarism and the university's alleged mishandling of anti-Semitism on campus since the start of the war between Israel and Hamas. The announcement comes less than a month after her congressional testimony that sparked outrage and intense backlash both from critics and prominent university donors. Gay becomes the second Ivy League leader to step down following last month's contentious hearing before the House Committee on Education. CBS's Nicole Killian has been following this story from the beginning and is here to start us off tonight. Nicole, good evening.
Good evening, Major. Pressure had been building on Claudine Gay to step down. Even though she apologized for her testimony last month, it wasn't enough, making her the shortest-serving president in the history of the university.
6 months into her tenure, Harvard University President Claudine Gay announced she's resigning so that our community can navigate this moment of extraordinary challenge. Gay's resignation comes nearly a month after she and the presidents of UPenn and MIT faced widespread condemnation following this testimony at a House education hearing on anti-Semitism on college campuses.
Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment, yes or no?
It can be, depending on the context.
It does not depend on the context. The answer is yes, and this is why you should resign.
House Republican Chair Elise Stefanik, a Harvard alum, posted, "Two down," referring to Gay and Penn President Liz McGill, who also resigned days after the hearing. While Harvard's governing board initially backed Gay, she faced increasing scrutiny following charges of plagiarism in her dissertation and several articles, including reports of a new complaint filed this week. Gay, who was Harvard's first black female president, denied the allegations of plagiarism and stated, "It has been distressing to have doubt cast on my commitments to confronting hate and to upholding scholarly rigor, and frightening to be subjected to personal attacks and threats fueled by racial animus."
It came out of nowhere.
Jonathan Frieden is a Harvard law student who attended the congressional hearing and has experienced anti-Semitism on campus.
The issues that exist are systemic, and they still need to be addressed.
So you think this is just the beginning?
I hope that this is just the beginning.
Harvard's governing body says Gay will stay on as a faculty member, and they have named an interim president. Tonight, there are now new calls for MIT's president to step down, although the school's board has previously said she has their full support. Major.
Nicole Killian, thank you so much.
Now, Claudine Gay was the first black female president of Harvard University. And 6 months into her tenure, Claudine Gay ran into a series of scandals that led to her being forced to step down from her position. Looks like I had my position at the City College of New York 16 years ago, 1 month longer than Claudine Gay was president of Harvard. Damn. Just damn. Now, most people would want to believe that Claudine Gay was forced to step down from her position as president of Harvard due to the plagiarism scandal she was dealing with. However, the real reason why Claudine Gay had to step down from her position as the president of Harvard was because she violated one of the unwritten social rules of white supremacy. Now, when it comes to academia, you have to understand the subtle politics transpiring around you, and sadly, Claudine Gay did not understand the subtle politics that went on as related to academia, and because she didn't understand the subtle politics related to academia, she didn't understand that when it comes to black people in academia, we have to understand how to navigate the unwritten social rules of white supremacy if you hope to keep a job. And the unwritten social rule that Claudine Gay wound up violating as related to the unwritten rules of white supremacy was making the mistake of believing that she had the autonomy as related to making decisions for the university all by herself. Now, when it comes to white power, whenever they appoint a black person into a position of power, usually this is done so that this individual will be an empty suit and an empty symbolic gesture, and that empty suit, which is an empty symbolic gesture, is meant to promote the idea of diversity and inclusion passively, but aggressively this individual is put there in order to make sure that the party line is towed as related to the university. So Claudine Gay was put in this position as the first black woman president to be in a place of a figurehead, and they expected this figurehead to be able to understand that they needed to follow the unwritten social rules of white supremacy and follow the policies that they wanted put in place as related to the overall university. Now, when it comes to colleges and universities in the academic arm of white supremacy, usually what happens is these schools are primarily run by donors and funders, and while you may have all of these academic people in trustee positions, they are trusted in following the policies that are unwritten by all of the donors and the funders who basically are signing the paychecks of everyone at the university. And where Claudine Gay made her biggest mistake, again, was believing that she had the right to go out here and say whatever she wanted. And the biggest mistake she made was as related to the incident on October 7th, where Hamas attacked Israel. And there was a student group at Harvard that released a statement blaming Israel for the violence in Israel. And this letter basically was presented, and this was something Claudine Gay went out here and made the wrong response to, because she went out here and had the audacity to these funders and donors at Harvard University to say that while she condemned the actions by Hamas, no student group, or not even 30 student groups, speaks for Harvard University or its leadership. Now, that statement may seem innocuous on the surface. However, that statement made by the funders and the donors to them was offensive, and it was offensive in the way of saying that this woman had the audacity to believe that she could go out here and speak on behalf of Harvard University. Now, when it comes to the academic arm of white supremacy, these funders and donors, again, are the lifeline of the university, and Claudine Gay going out here and speaking for the university without consulting the funders and the donors to get their point. That was where Claudine Gay made her mistake, because when it comes to a university, the president does not speak for themselves. No, they go out and present the viewpoints of the funders and the donors, and they go and consult them before they make that statement, because that statement that she made saying no student group, not even 30 student groups, speak for Harvard University or its leadership without consulting the people who pay the checks at the university, that basically to those people who are a part of the academic arm of white supremacy and the fiscal arm of white supremacy, was a simple statement of defiance, and it showed that Claudine Gay would not be the figurehead that they wanted her to be. Now, they wanted Claudine Gay to be the figurehead and first consult them, and then after consulting them, get their statement, and after getting their official statement, she would say what they made in a speech and speak for Harvard University based on the statement made by the funders and the donors. That is what they wanted Claudine Gay to do, unfortunately, this black bootlick sadly didn't know how to polish the boots at that point and thought that she had the autonomy to be able to say what she wanted to say because she got caught up in the prestige of her title, not understanding that as a figurehead, your job is to do whatever the people in power tell you to do. And again, when it comes to academia, those who control the money control the curriculum, and those who control the curriculum control the narrative of the school. And sadly, Claudine Gay didn't understand how to follow that unwritten social rule. And because she could not follow that unwritten social rule, many of the donors who supported Israel went out and cut ties to the university because she said that no student group that speaks for Harvard University or its leadership, and in that student group she was talking about those who support Israel, and those who supported Israel decided they were going to cut ties with the university because Claudine Gay did not follow their rules for the school and did not follow their rules in order to receive their funding. Because as someone who has family members who work in education and somebody who's worked in nonprofits, when it comes to these donors who are doing the funding in nonprofits like universities, they are expecting you to be able to toe their party line if you want to get funding from that university. That's all part of an unwritten condition for you to receive that money. And Claudine Gay basically put the university in a bad place. Again, this is a top Ivy League university, and this woman basically put them in jeopardy of losing a lot of major donors. And as this was going on, Harvard alumni were basically contacting their Congress people to do an investigation as related to this whole situation. And this investigation was basically being done because they wanted to get this loose cannon out of this position. And that's why they did this investigation into Harvard for discrimination involving shared ancestry, a term that encompasses both anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. And this was again used to bring Claudine Gay before Congress. And as she was brought before Congress, Elise Stefanik was questioning her and basically trying to give her an ability to try to save her position. But sadly, Claudine Gay could not read the unwritten social rules of the room. And as she was asked, are the statements that are made, are they hate speech? What happened is, instead of her saying an emphatic yes, what she did, like the president of UPenn and MIT did, was believe that they actually had freedom of speech and were looking to defend the First Amendment of the Constitution. What Claudine Gay did was go into an ambiguous statement and said that in a context, not understanding that the context that Elise Stefanik was presenting was related to her job. And what she was doing cryptically was giving her a way to save her job by just saying yes. But instead of her making that statement that would appease the funders and the donors who contacted these Congress people to create this investigation, what she did was go out here and give the ambiguous statement, and this was what led to Elise Stefanik getting upset, this former Harvard alum, and saying you needed to say yes and that you don't deserve your job. That's basically where Claudine Gay basically fouled up as related to everything, because those people were trying to give this black bootlick an opportunity to save her job. Unfortunately, she didn't understand the subtle politics transpiring around her. She didn't understand the chess move she needed to make. And instead of her understanding the chess move she needed to make, what she did was take out the pink card on Candyland. And sadly, she wound up in a position where they really realized that they could not trust her in that position to be the figurehead they could trust to say what they wanted to say. And that's where we started to see the investigation into Claudine Gay as related to the plagiarism. This was an escalation that was done because they saw that Claudine Gay basically was somebody they couldn't trust, to maintain their party line as related to their politics. And because the university's funders and donors saw that she could not go out here and support their business and political position, this is where they took a further look at Claudine Gay's academic work as related to her articles and even her doctorate. This was basically done because they saw that this black bootlick basically was somebody who they saw as a loose cannon, and they went into this investigation as part of a plan to, one, get Claudine Gay to step down from her position, and two, get her to understand that she is only in this position based on them allowing it. Because before Claudine Gay's papers were not questioned, they were not challenged, and nobody saw any plagiarism in them, but they only saw the plagiarism in them when Claudine Gay decided to believe that she actually had power as president of Harvard to be able to control things as related to the affairs of Harvard. She overstepped her bounds when she got in the middle of the Israel-Hamas situation and decided to choose a side that wasn't the side of the funders and donors of that school. Because when it comes again to academia, your side is the side that the school's funders and donors are supposed to have. You don't get a chance to say what you think is anything, and that's where Claudine Gay made her mistake in believing that her positions, her personal positions, were that of the university, and her viewpoints were that of the university. No, when it came to the university, her job was to, as the president, was to sit down and have a meeting with the top donors and the top funders, ask them if they would go out here and prepare a statement, and then she would read whatever statement they would give to her. That is the job of a president of a university. Their job is to go out here and follow the rules and policies that are set before them in the academic arm of white supremacy. But sadly, Claudine Gay didn't get that memo, and because she didn't get that memo and didn't understand the subtle politics transpiring around her as related to working in a university, what happened to Claudine Gay is they basically looked to make an example of her. And the reason why the people there in the academic arm of white supremacy wanted to make an example of her was to show everybody what happens, one, when you place a black person in a position to make the statement again that a black person isn't fit for having power, and two, to make an example of this person to show that this is why we don't hire black people for these jobs, and three, what they wanted to do with Claudine Gay was make an example of this person to show what happens when you step out of line with the unwritten rules and policies of the school. Because if when it comes to that person, again, no student group or 30 student groups don't speak for Harvard University, and no member of administration or 30 members of administration speak for Harvard University or its leadership. No, it's the donors who speak for Harvard University, and they give their money to the school to promote the message that make the school's Ivy League institution a prestigious one, and they are the ones who dictate the message and the narrative, because again, those who control the money control the curriculum in academia, and those who control the curriculum control the narrative of the school, and those who control the narrative of the school control the politics of the school. So that was the rule that Claudine Gay made the mistake on. And again, she made the mistake of believing, oh, I'm the president of Harvard, I can do whatever I want. No, when you are the president of an academic university, which is a nonprofit that gets most of its funding from other corporations and other corporate trusts and hedge funds, you are held accountable by all of those individuals, and you are to follow whatever they say. And Claudine Gay made the mistake of believing, like Pinocchio, she could be a puppet without strings. But the whole thing is, when you are a part of the academic arm of white supremacy, you are a puppet with strings, and you have to go out here and dance whatever way your puppet masters want. But sadly, this natural hair sister didn't understand this, and it's the sad story of Claudine Gay. Basically mirrors my experience working at City College, where I ran into the same situation because I didn't understand what was going on at that school as related to these professors and them wanting their smooth world. And the same thing happened to Claudine Gay that led to her winding up being forced to step down is the same thing that led to me winding up leaving a position in 2008. When you don't understand the unwritten social rules of the academic arm of white supremacy, you're not going to wind up in that position long, because if you don't understand the unwritten social rules of that whole situation, you don't understand that there is no free speech or anything in academia. No, everything is the narrative of whatever those in power, as related to the funding, want. And if those who control the funding want a certain viewpoint presented, that viewpoint is the only one presented. And again, this is where Claudine Gay made her mistake. She made a mistake as related to violating the unwritten social rules of the academic arm of white supremacy, and they wanted to hear certain statements. And again, because they pay Claudine Gay's salary, they wanted to be the ones who wanted to be, again, one wanted to be consulted first, two wanted to prepare that statement, and three wanted her to say everything letter for letter that they presented in that statement. That is what they wanted. They wanted obedience from Claudine Gay, and sadly, because she could not give them the submission and obedience they wanted, this is why they started the campaign to look to remove her from her position as president. And as she resigned this position just 6 months in, this professor soon learned a lesson about the power structure of the academic arm of white supremacy. And the academic arm of white supremacy basically is one that is a place where you're going to learn the hard lesson that these schools will teach you a lesson in anti-black racism as related to these kinds of jobs. And this is what Claudine Gay is learning as she's taking her step down from being a president to becoming just another teacher. Now, if you want to learn more about the subtle politics transpiring around people in business, you can pick up my novel, The Temptation of John Haynes, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. And you can also find it at other online booksellers like Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. And in that book, I talk about things like the unwritten social rules as related to business and the subtle politics that go on in business in high-level positions. And if you also want to learn more about the other unwritten social rules, you can also pick up my novel, Spellbound, which also goes into the spellbound mindset that people like Claudine Gay have, thinking they can fit into a black box that's acceptable to white people, not understanding that in that black box, all they want you to do is be a stereotype. You can find Spellbound on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find it at other online booksellers like Smashwords, the iBookstore, Google Play, and Barnes & Noble. And if you'd like to see me make more videos like this one a viewer requested, you can send a donation for a minimum of $15 to the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. Or if you want to send a donation through PayPal, you can also send one through there as well. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, E-Steam Cancel Vacation. Hell's aspiring angel takes on a social justice, social media mob looking to cancel her in this all-new E-Steam series adventure. Get E-Steam Cancel Vacation in paperback and e-readers today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.